Thank you very much, sir. And I think without much ado, we'll try to summarize later. I'll give the floor to our second speaker, Mr. Roberto Carvalho Diaz, CEO of LandInvest. Please.
I'd like to thank the invitation by MIPIM and also the honor of speaking with such distinguished guests. I would like to speak also in the standpoint of a medium-sized developer who found a solution for social housing, which is not specifically to the standpoint of the government, but also to the standpoint of investors. You see here. Well, I'll go very quickly on the Brazil stats because Mr. Coelho will address that later. We have a 7 million deficit. We have a concentration of employment in the order of 85% in cities. We have housing prices that increases at a rate that's greater than the average income mass of Brazil. And also we have a lot of traffic that brings problems in Brazil. If you do visit Rio or if you do visit São Paulo, I'm sure you notice that. And this brings problems of not only costs for the person who's just traveling from one place to the next every day, but also in productivity. Then the solution that we offer is really, what we're trying to do, is decentralized work, decentralized employment by structuring projects which are at the same time housing projects but also working structure for industry, logistics and also retail, along with our natural obligations, which is schools, health structure, and all urban infrastructure which is necessary for larger projects such as the one I'm going to show you. So what we're working on is really a three-type project. We have affordable housing in the back, usually horizontal, and offices, industrial logistics space in the front. And we have also shopping centers, schools, hospitals, security, and infrastructure all over the place. We're trying to bring a more decent and more environmental friendly conception of social housing. Our social housing doesn't seem like a social housing project. Hopefully it's a little bit better. And we have offices and retail spaces. I'm going to give you an idea of what's happening in Brazil right now. I mean, we do have a deficit, but we also have an ongoing deficit lag. In the 1980s, we had 600,000 new homes needed every year, which is around 1.8 adults per house. Then you have 2.3 children, and then comes up the breakdown of American Brazilian household. This increased to 1.3 million homes in the 2000s, and right now is 1.5 million every year. We have still very low leverage of GDP to mortgages, and also, even though we have financed, increased our financing to recent records, still very short of the needed of the number that I showed you just in an earlier slide. If you see in 1980, we had nearly 68% of people living in rural areas, just as Ms. Oxenmeyer said, and also right now we're around 85%. This increases pressure on prices, and it makes very difficult for developers such as us to work and find places, plots of land to develop social housing. It's really difficult. I mean, you don't find that. So what we see is that even though income is increasing, the cost of land has increased dramatically. For you just to have a glimpse, in the last 12 months, ending in January, average price for an apartment grew 37% in São Paulo. This is average. It is not. I mean, you have peaks, ups and lows, but this is average. And the benefits for the consumer for these types of products that we're developing is that we can actually supply the huge demand with reasonably priced products because land is cheaper outside. But we're only able to bring this type of demand if we can bring employment as well. So we're focusing on houses. We're focusing on reducing transportation, therefore, by increasing work within the project development. We increase education, health, civility standards, because the conception of the project takes in consideration all these areas. Increases income for both family members that can work. Right now, around 40% of families cannot have the two couples working because one has to take care of the children. So, and also decreases living costs due to lower operating costs of the house, of the project, and also focus on low-cost retail in these projects. So the benefit for the government, it decreases the need for governmental investment. It also increases GDP for lower constraints and costs. It increases education, health, civility standards without the associated cost and investment, because the private sector will take care of larger, or if not all of it, instead of the government. It decreases pressure in the already saturated metropolis, as we've seen in São Paulo, Rio, and other large metropolises in Brazil. It transfers part of the government duties and responsibilities to the private sector and to associations, usually non-profit organizations. And our challenges are, we'd like the government to focus on more provisions or tax breaks or incentives for the companies to decentralize employment offer. This is really the key part of our let's say, intentions. We have large developments face longer licensing periods, especially in terms of environment. Developments have to be close to large metropolis to begin I'll be over in 1 minute. Has to be close to the metropolis so that it can do the transition from employment from the city then to the development. Urban infrastructure is built to operate in the private sector, and more complex business model, which is that we have to have sales and property structure within the same development structure. And the benefits for investors is that we actually can have high profits, high margins within a different type of product, which is social housing. And thanks to Caixa Econômica, we are able now to offer 30 years financing with low interest rates in Brazil. Lower land costs, higher margins, offer two types of business models, flexibility in development space, risk reduction, low cash exposure, reduce risks, low competition, demand today. 85% of demand is for houses in Brazil, and 90% of the companies in Brazil offer only apartments. That's it.
Thank you very much.